Hey everybody, welcome to the channel, True Crime Stories. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe so you can hear more. Thanks for stopping by. Hey everybody, well, I just wanted to hop on here real quick before I begin today's story and just update everybody on a couple of things. This past week has been a hectic week. I got logged out of my Let's Talk True Crime page. I like to never have got back into it, but I finally did. I don't know what's going on, but then I got logged out of my email account, and it took me about 3 days to get back into it. So if anybody has reached out to me through email or anything like that, just know that I am working on getting everything back in order. And I am planning, I haven't done it yet, but I am planning to make a backup YouTube channel just in the event that I get logged out, because I don't know what's going on here. But what I'm planning to do is make a backup YouTube channel where I will just keep a backup in the event that I should get logged out again. And if anyone wants to follow that channel, subscribe to that YouTube channel, they can. You can always find my videos. I don't post them all at the same day that I post them to YouTube, but usually within a week I try to post all of my recent videos to the Facebook page, Let's Talk True Crime. And there is a link to that on the YouTube channel here. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. I know I'm a little bit behind on doing some videos, but I never got logged out of my YouTube channel. It was just my email account, and I was having trouble with. But anyway, on with today's story. As Christmas holidays are approaching, and since I've started this channel, I have done multiple Christmas related videos at around Christmas time. I do stories related to Christmas. And so I'm looking for some right now. I have a couple that I'm working on. I'm hoping to get all those edited and uploaded and ready to go within a week or so before Christmas. If anybody has any stories, it doesn't even have to be Christmas related, but just anything that you want to hear about, you can leave a comment on one of my videos. I try to read all my comments. Sometimes YouTube holds them. I don't know why. But you can always reach out to me on my Facebook page, Let's Talk True Crime, or you can email me. And the email is dreamkeeper010. It's all one word. No capitalized letters or anything, just one long word, at Yahoo. And that's also linked on the YouTube channel. If anybody has any stories they would like to hear about, I will put them in my lineup and work on those as well. Before I get started today, I'll just remind everybody, for those of you who are new and maybe didn't know this, the background noise that you hear, it's a little space heater that I use in this room that I record in. It gets a little bit chilly in here, and I don't want to turn on the heat, so I just thought I would tell everyone that. Today's story feature is going to be the story of Jared McCulloch. Jared McCulloch went missing. He was last seen on a road trip to visit his son. And what I've read, what I've gathered about this man, he had gotten into some trouble, and he had been on what they called supervised, I guess it was something like a probation, supervision is what they were calling it, but I'm assuming it was some type of probation for 5 years. I didn't see what it said that he had gotten into trouble over, but I know that an ex had accused him of domestic violence at least on 2 different occasions. So I'm not sure if that was what this was about or not. But before he went missing, just before he went missing, he was scheduled to appear in court over one of these allegations. And some people believe that maybe he just ran off because he didn't want to go back to jail, and others think something more sinister happened to him. So Jared was traveling from Louisiana to Illinois to visit his son, who was also into some trouble of some type, and he was a teenage kid, and he had gotten into some trouble and was in like a detention camp, a detention center. So the mother of his son had contacted him and wanted him to accompany her to the detention center to visit their son to see what they could do to try to help him. So Jared left Louisiana. He passed through several towns, and he was seen on videos at several different gas stations getting gas, getting something to drink. He was last seen on video at a gas station in Carmi, Illinois on November 5th, 2023. His truck would be found abandoned near Vincennes, Indiana, which is near the Illinois border. All of the truck's doors were wide open, and his 2 dogs that he was traveling with were near the truck. Now, it says here they were near the truck, but his mother described it as the dogs were in the back seat of the truck and were terrified to come out. And he had 2 dogs with him. They were his companions. They went everywhere with him. They were very attached to him. They were very territorial of him, protective of him. They found scratchings on the back window where the dogs had scratched in the dust and dirt on the back window. The truck was found on this back dirt gravel road where nobody really traveled. It was a one-way road. There was no homes out in there. There was kind of away from, the main areas of town. But they believe that the dogs witnessed something and that they were trying to scratch at the windows to try to get out to get to Jared. But they'll never know because the dogs will never be able to tell what happened. But the truck was, he had purchased gas. He was last seen on video purchasing gas. So his truck was full of gas. But when the truck was found, it was empty of gas. The key was turned on. The truck had been left running and had just sat there idling, running until it ran out of gas. And the battery was dead. There have been many theories over the years about what happened to Jared. Tips have come in from the community. Now here's another thing I want to talk about real quick while it's on my mind. The mother, she started investigating this herself. Now, on the last story that I did, the young man who went missing in Mississippi, his family says they didn't get any help from local law enforcement. They weren't getting any help from the local sheriff's department. Jared was reportedly seen at a bar and grill, and he had come in there and gotten something to eat. Several people described seeing him. They described what he was wearing. People described his truck. They described the dogs in the back seat of the truck. They described items that were in the bed of his truck. They described his Carhartt jacket that he was wearing, that he was seen on video wearing in several of these convenience stores videos. But when it came time for the police and for his mom and other people who were helping his mom look for him, when they went to this place to talk to the owner to try to get their camera footage, they denied Jared ever being there, and they even claimed that they were not open that morning, that Jared was supposedly there. But now they were open that morning. It was on a Sunday, and according to their own website, they open at 11 a.m. When Jared's mom was first contacted about them finding the truck, she explained to them that her son had the truck and that he was, it was his truck, that he was traveling to Illinois, and Instead of them immediately treating it as a missing person, as soon as the police found out about Jared's background, that he had been into trouble and had a past and had some court dates coming up and so on, they treated it as like, they even put it out on the news that he was on the run. They treated it as a dangerous person. They said he could possibly be armed and that the public needed to be on the lookout for him as a possible danger. The only update really that I could find that the mother, they did their own investigations because the community, like I said, kind of started out like they were going to be helpful. I think once they learned that the police was putting this out as a possible dangerous person, they kind of felt duped, and they thought maybe they were being led astray, so they didn't really want to talk and they really didn't want to help. Jared's shoes were found, and they were found 10 feet apart on the riverbank, not too far from where his truck was located. So now this is what they talked about when the police, a lot of the local people told his mom that they hadn't even heard about this. They didn't know anything about this case. There hadn't been any missing persons posters put up or anything on the news explaining that a man was missing, about his truck and his dogs being abandoned. When they finally did put it out, they put it out in this way, as though Jared could possibly be a dangerous person. The Knox County Sheriff's Office told News 10 that McCulloch has a warrant in Decatur County, Indiana for probation violation and another one in Union Parish, Louisiana for domestic battery and strangulation. The Sheriff's Office said that Jared McCulloch had been charged with dealing cocaine and the neglect of a dependent. So I'm guessing that was what his initial jail time was over. He was coming off of that probation. They treated it as though he just went on the run, and because they thought he didn't want to go back to jail when he ended up going back to court. Officials told News 10 that he wasn't living or staying in Knox County. He was en route to Salem, Illinois, and police weren't sure why he was in Indiana. But now recent updates that I could find was that the police in Illinois and Indiana were now working together, and they believe that whatever happened to him happened in Illinois, and they believe his truck was simply driven into Indiana and abandoned. They believe whatever happened to him happened, and you don't want to falsely accuse somebody, but when you look at it, his reason for being there was to travel to see this woman who he had had a child with. The two of them were supposed to be scheduled to go visit the son in this detention. She told police initially that they only had 1 or 2 text messages between them, but when phone records were pulled, they showed a different story. It showed that they had had long conversations and many conversations prior to him leaving Louisiana and after he was en route to Illinois. And at 2:30 that morning, the last morning that he was seen on camera at one of these locations, they'd had a lengthy conversation. And so, did police look into her? Did they look into the possibility that she had some way set him up to come there? I don't know, but if there are ever any updates to this story, hopefully I'll be able to provide an update to the listeners. So, that was just very strange. That was something that was very odd that these people, maybe they just didn't, maybe they were afraid. Maybe they were afraid somebody would retaliate, come back and, do harm to their business or something like that. But whatever the reason was, people in the community all of a sudden just didn't want to talk. They didn't want to say, yeah, we saw him. There were a few people who did. In one video, probably the last footage that was seen of Jared, he was in this convenience store. He had attempted to buy gas at the pump, but there was some problem with the pump. So he went inside and he paid in cash, and there was a man on the camera in the background behind him. Now, he reached out to Jared's family after learning about this, and he said, there was nothing unusual about it. He didn't see anyone else with Jared. He was alone as far as he could tell. He didn't seem to be in distress. He wasn't saying anything that alerted anybody to any problems. He just came inside, he paid for his gas, and he left. Paid for his gas, went back outside, pumped his gas, got back in his truck, and left. But on the footage, when he turns back out onto the roadway, he went in an opposite direction. Their phone recorded, his mother and father had access to his phone, so they were able to pull his records, and they saw that the two of them had had several conversations. One conversation was 12 minutes long. She claims that he had called her and that told her, she gave him directions, told him what time to be there, and he never showed up. So after she waited on him for a little while, and then she just went on. She claims she went on to the detention center to visit her son by herself, and that she never saw or heard from Jared again. Now, this is another article from News Nation. Jared McCulloch disappeared while on a last-minute trip from Louisiana to Illinois. Jared was a construction worker, and he was known to be somewhat silly. He loved to be out in the outdoors. He loved to go out into the hills. He liked to take his dogs on walks. His dogs were always with him. Now, Jared's oldest son had gotten into some trouble, and he needed some help, so Jared decided he would drive up to Illinois from Louisiana, and he took his two dogs with him. Now, his mother, Tammy Repond, was on the road herself in November of 2023. She didn't know about her son's last-minute trip, but she wasn't surprised to find that he took his dogs, Roxy Mae and Rusty. After driving all night, Jared stopped at a gas station in Carmi, Illinois on the morning of Sunday, November 5th, 2023. The pump had given him some problems, so he went inside to pay, leaving his dogs in the truck. His time inside, like I said before, was uneventful. He paid for his gas, he walked back outside, got back in his truck. But when he left the gas station, he headed east and north away from the destination where he would be going. At some point, he drove his truck across Cannonball Bridge, which is a one-lane span bridge that was built in the 1800s. Now, it's now a local toll booth. You have to pay a toll to go through there. And they pulled the footage from this toll booth, and there was no other way for him to have gotten across that bridge without going across that toll booth, and there was no footage of him ever having gone across that bridge. But a local law enforcement told his mother that there was another way to go around it that was really just known to locals. It was kind of like a trail road. It was kind of just a road that just kind of went around down by the water, and unless you were really from there, you probably wouldn't have known about this road. And some of the local people that his mother and the law enforcement spoke to claimed they didn't even know about this road, but they thought maybe Jared had traveled that road. His mother says he had never been in that community, enough that he would have known about that. So she wonders if maybe he met up with somebody and something happened to him. Maybe someone took his truck and drove it down that road. The truck then crossed the Wabash River and headed into Knox County, Indiana. Now, the next day, someone reported the truck being abandoned. They found the truck with the truck. The truck was out of gas. The ignition was on. The battery was dead. All the doors were open on the truck, and the dogs were waiting faithfully for Jared. Deputies called his mother because the truck was registered to his mother. So they called her and asked her, "Why is this truck you own abandoned here?" And she explained to them that her son was traveling to, the area. And Local law enforcement and others searched the area, and they searched around the Wabash and the White Rivers, not far from where his truck was recovered. His mother got into his cell phone records. She pored over his cell phone records, and she said that his last calls came from his oldest son's mother in the hours before his truck traveled into Indiana. So his mother and father keep the cell phone turned on. His mother and stepfather keep his cell phone paid for and turned on. They say that they do send the occasional text message to that phone, hoping that maybe he's out there somewhere. The dogs now live with them, and these are the only two witnesses that know what happened to Jared, and they're not able to tell anybody. The dogs, it appears that the dogs have been scratching on the back window. So his mom, she sees this in her mind as these two dogs are in the back seat of this truck. Jared gets out, maybe is confronted by someone, maybe walks back, maybe he's lost. Maybe he sees another person, he walks over to ask them for directions or something of that nature, and something happens to Jared. I don't think that Jared, as much as he loved these dogs and these dogs were always with him, I don't think that he walked off and left these dogs there with the doors open for them to possibly run off and get separated and, something really bad happened to them. She believes that someone else opened these doors, left these doors open for the dogs, maybe. She says the dogs witnessed something. Roxy Mae was very skittish and gets scared very easily, and probably would not have left the truck if she was frightened. They say that she had urinated in the back seat of the truck, and she believes the only reason was that when she gets frightened by sounds or something, she sometimes will urinate. So she believes that something scared the dog so much that she peed in the seat of the truck. Now, she found a witness who said that he saw her son and that he looked to be somewhat frightened, disheveled, and he was in a place in San Francisville, Illinois. This witness says there were two men with him, and they were sitting on opposite sides of him in this restaurant. The witness's grandson was with her at the time as well, and pointed out the dogs and said that they recognized the dogs. Now, the cell phone records do show that he was in that area, and it would have been around the time that these witnesses claimed to have seen him. News Nation spoke to Knox County, Indiana detective working on the case, and he said it's an active, open investigation and that there's very little that he can share about it. Jared McCulloch is 5'9" tall, about 170 pounds. He has blonde hair and several tattoos. He was last seen wearing jeans, a light blue t-shirt, dark blue Skechers, and a brown Carhartt jacket, like a tan Carhartt jacket. Anyone with any information should contact the Knox County Sheriff's Office. Now, like I said, he had a pending court case coming up for a claim of domestic violence or something to do with an ex-girlfriend, and some people think that he was afraid that he might go back to jail, so he just took off. But I don't know about that. I really don't. I wonder if he was set up, and I wonder why he would have been set up. I think about that, and I think, was there something that this mother of his son stood to gain from his disappearance? Did she have a better alibi than just, I was at home waiting for him to show up? Was there anyone else who could say that for sure? And could Jared have encountered someone along the way? Like I said, these people at this bar and grill, and they said that it would have made a lot of sense that he would have stopped at this place because it would have been the last place to stop. They said that On none of the footage of him going into these convenience stores had he purchased any food. So he had driven through the night. This was a 500-mile trip. He had driven through the night, and the only times he had stopped anywhere was to get gas, and had bought a couple of energy drinks and a tea, like an Arizona tea. And unless he had some food with him that he had purchased before he left, or some food he had brought from home, he hadn't eaten. So they said it would have made sense that he would have stopped there and got a bite to eat. And witnesses do claim to have seen him, and maybe this was the location where they said that he was seen with these other men. Maybe someone figured out who these men were, and maybe they didn't want to. But why would Jared have been targeted? Did he have any cash on him? In one video, you see him counting out some cash, but he gives it to the clerk and pays for his gas. So, they didn't take his truck. They didn't take any of the items that were in the bed of his truck or the back seat. So I don't know what they would have wanted from him. She got together with a group of people that helped to put out flyers, that helped to search. There is one other thing. She says, and this woman that's helping her, that works with her, says that when the local authorities did begin to go out into that area where Jared's truck was found to search for him, they took pictures of where the truck was located, and then they were able to determine the location of where his truck was found by some of the background scenery. But when the police went out and the local people went out to search, they had put up markers of the areas where they wanted them to search, and it was not even close to the area where his truck was found. They didn't search the area right around his truck. His mother did. His mother and these other people, they went out there and they searched around, and they set out into the woods not too far away from the road where his truck was found. Was what appeared to be maybe where someone had had a party, like maybe some beer cans and a fire pit and some things like that. She was looking for anything that maybe had belonged to Jared. She said that his vape was missing, his cell phone was missing, his cigarette lighter. But that was the only thing that was missing, was just some stuff that he could maybe have had in his coat pocket. And so she was looking on the ground to see if maybe his cigarette lighter was there. And here's another strange thing about this. She said Jared never rode in the back seat, only the dogs. But there was a pack of Marlboro cigarettes in the door of the back door. Someone had been riding in the back seat, or someone had put those cigarettes down in the door. So I went through some more articles looking to see if I could find anything more about Jared. I couldn't find anything. As of today, his case is still active and open. He's still a missing person. They could find no signs of any real foul play. There was no blood. There was nothing. The truck wasn't damaged in any way. The dogs were not harmed. It was as though Jared had just pulled up there in that truck, or someone. Maybe Jared was put in the back seat. Maybe he put those cigarettes in the door as a sign, or maybe that this would tell somebody that he was in the back seat when he shouldn't have been. Jared was pretty active, but between the hours of 1:30 and 8:30, he stopped at least 3 different convenience stores. He was seen on camera. His phone was pinging. He had a very lengthy conversation with a woman, the mother of his son. Now, another story that I read, I watched some videos, I watched some podcasts, and listened to some different articles, read some different articles, trying to gather as much information as I could. In one article, it was said that not only was he going there to visit his son, but that he had been trying to get custody of his son. Now, I don't know if the child's mother, the son was 14 at that time, I don't know if she was in agreement with this, if they were, if they had come to the decision that he would come there to get the son, to try to get him out of this detention center, whatever kind of trouble he had gotten into. I really don't know the details about all of that. I don't know if they were arguing about that or if they were in agreement about that. But is it possible that she didn't want him to take the child, and this could have been some tension between them? There are many different theories. It's also possible some people believe that she may have also helped him to hide, as the police initially put out and thought that he had these felony warrants out for him. He had court coming up. He had an outstanding warrant for domestic battery. He had some outstanding warrants for probation violation. Um, and some people believe it's possible that he did disappear himself. Other people have suggested that he may have committed suicide, but I don't even think so. I think if he had planned to commit suicide, he wouldn't have traveled so far away from home, leaving his dogs behind. As a dog owner and a dog lover and someone who's very protective of my own dog, I just can't see him putting his dogs in a situation where they would possibly become lost or injured or killed. So that theory doesn't hold water with me. I think, and I watched one man's video where he said it's possible that, well, the dogs had their leashes on, so it's possible that he did just pull over there. He may have become lost. He may have gotten out of the truck walking around trying to get a signal to try to get a phone call to go out to try to find out where he was at. The last text that he sent, he accidentally sent to his mother. She said that she wishes now she would have called him to see what he was talking about, but she said that he often sent texts to the wrong people by mistake, and she didn't think much about it. But the last text that he had sent to her was, "Where is that?" As though he were asking someone for directions or asking someone for, where something was located at. So it's possible that he could have become lost. With the dogs both having their leashes on, it's possible he was getting them out of the truck to take them to use the bathroom, take them for a walk before he went on to this woman's house. Some people believe he fell in the river nearby, but the river was searched. His mother reached out to, people who do river recoveries and searches, and police searched those areas, and they only found his shoes on the riverbank. They found his shoes that were about 10 feet apart. It's possible that he could have gone down to the water. Maybe one of the dogs got down in the water and he went to try to get it out. But I think if he would have fallen in, the water was so shallow, I think he probably would have been able to get back up out of the water. I could be wrong about that, but I just don't know about that, all those different theories. His parents kept the phone turned on in the event that maybe they would hear from him. But as far as police were able to determine, his phone was turned off not too long after his last contact. So there's this thought that he just did this himself. He didn't want to go back to jail, and he just went off the grid and disappeared. And other people believe that something very sinister happened to him and that someone out there knows something. It was suggested in one video that I listened to that the police have some information and they haven't released all the details of everything that they know because they do have something against somebody. Now, in another bizarre turn of events, about a year after Jared disappeared, his son, the son that he had gone to visit that week, he also disappeared. He went missing. They said that he left his detention center in the middle of the night and got an Uber, and I don't know how long he was gone for. I don't know. They considered him missing. They put out missing persons posters. Couldn't find much detail about it because where he was a juvenile, and also because once he was discovered safe and alive, most of the evidence about him was removed. But there are some missing persons posters out there that still exist. I didn't share any of them because he was underage at that time. Probably still is only about 17 right now, so I just didn't share any of that. A lot of people thought it was bizarre that he also went missing, and they thought maybe Jared was still alive out there somewhere and they had arranged to meet. But I don't know that. And nobody know. Well, I don't want to say nobody knows because somebody may know. And hopefully someday the truth will come out. His mother says every day is rough. Some days are worse than others. Today I was looking through our text messages and I felt sad and defeated. I was laughing and crying at the same time. I'm reminded every day that we're never going to stop. We're never going to stop looking for Jared. If you have any information about the disappearance of Jared McCulloch, contact the Knox County Sheriff's Department at 1-812-882-7660. Thanks for watching.